Hello, it's Pastor Andrew Morrell from Real Community Covenant Church again this week for the Tuesday Takeaway. This past Sunday, 2 days ago, I preached a message on Matthew 5:13 through 16, which is about salt and light. And so last week, Dr. Bart Ruler preached a message on Matthew 5:1 through 12, the Beatitudes. And my wife, I interviewed my wife last week, and we heard from my wife, Casey Morrell. And so this week, we have Charissa Pierre with us this week, who is going to share with us some of the things that maybe God said to her during the time when you heard the message. And so, Charissa, I'm just interested in hearing, like, out of anything that I said or what the Lord may have said through me, like, what did you hear? What did God say to you?
Thanks so much for having me. A few things stood out to me, and I was just like, you know, when you're writing notes, you're hearing things, and you're like, oh, I gotta remember that to write that down. I was kind of like on a roll, just really trying to soak it in. It's like, I want to make sure that I'm really remembering everything that you included in your message. And a couple things definitely stood out to me. The first thing was, you know, we talk about how the Bible says, yes, we're the salt and the light of the earth. But what does that mean? And when you pointed out that it's a reminder of the purpose that has been given to us to season, to preserve, to exfoliate, to let, to be in darkness, to see, to let light shine. All of those things are qualities of salt and light that are given to those. And without those qualities, the salt and light is kind of useless.
Yeah.
And in those same sense, it was really powerful to be reminded of that without God, we are unable to see. Without God, we are unable to be seasoned, to be preserved, or to do what we are called to do.
Yeah.
And the purpose of why we're a city set on a hill. That was probably my favorite part of the message. And I have so many notes on that, but really what stood out to me was the distinction between a public faith and a personal faith.
Yeah.
And so my whole life, I've always been familiar with the term personal faith, personal relationship, personal walk with God. But never was it really pushed for me, even as a young person, to make that faith public, or it wasn't emphasized as much as the personal faith part. And I think so many times we can isolate ourselves and turn inward because we're so fixated on how we feel personally with our walk with God that we forget and lose sight of the fact that it's really not about us.
Yeah.
Yes, we're saved, but that's not our purpose in life, is not to feel like we're close to Jesus Christ. That's not our Great Commission, and sometimes we can get so inward focused, especially of what it means to have a purpose, to do what you're called to do in life. That can be really, hard for people to navigate, because we're told, do what you feel like you've been called to do. But really we've been called to do the same thing. And our calling, no matter what our gifts and talents are, is the same. And our calling is to fulfill the Great Commission. And that's it. And there's so much freedom in that. And that's the reason that we're a city set on a hill, to be the example, to be set apart, in order to invite people into a city where they feel welcome.
Yes.
And that was just so it was such a great reminder for me, so encouraging. I could go on, but those were definitely things that stood out to me. Because if we're not using our gifts and our graces and our blessings, then we're not being the church. We're just doing whatever we want to do for ourselves, and there's no growth in that. There's no fruit in that. And it reminds me of the parable of the man that hid his treasure, and it's at the end of all of this, at the end of our lives, what do we have to show from what we've been given? And it's those blessings, we can either bury them and hide them for ourselves out of fear, or we can have faith and have faith in Jesus and multiply. And that there's just so much life and fruit that comes from that choice.
Yes.
So yeah, that really impacted me.
So what are some ways that you see this playing out in your life as a result of this now? That you know this, right? James says that we ought to put our faith into practice, right? And so it's not good enough to just know the word and hear it, but to do it. And so, like, what's this look like for Charissa? What is God calling Charissa to do?
I think understanding that where we are is exactly where we have been called to be, instead of focusing towards the future of, where am I supposed to go, or where am I called? Just look around you and just look at the city that you're in, and that's all you have to do. So many times I've been caught up in, what is my life supposed to be? Like, what am I supposed to do with my life? Instead of recognizing that there's life all around me now, and I am supposed to take action and be just as passionate about spreading the gospel as I am about things that affect me directly. Like, I'm very concerned with what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go and the kind of person, the kind of job I want. I'm very concerned with that, but am I just as concerned with the eternal life of the people around me that share with me that they're not saved, or that share with me that they don't know God, or that they've been hurt by the church? Am I just as on fire to be with those people and to be a light for them? And what does that mean? So if I'm not seasoned, then how can I season others?
Yes.
And that was just it's a reminder. Be in the Word, to be seasoned, but it doesn't stop there. And a lot of times it's in those moments where it's not on Sunday that you're talking to people and they share that, I don't know if I believe in this God. I don't know, I've been hurt by people that have called themselves Christian. How am I supposed to believe that God loves me? In those moments, it's to show them what it's like to be loved by God. And it's to show them, listen, God never rejected you. It's the church that rejected you. And the church is a body of imperfect people. And yet, God is not imperfect. And in that we can have rest. And in that we can have faith. And that's just it was just such a good one.
Thank you. I'm so encouraged that you have these notes. And, sometimes when you're preaching, it's like, you hope that people are listening, right? We hope as preachers, we hope that people are listening. We don't want to be just talking to the walls. And at the same time, we know that God is touching somebody with the words that we're speaking, because it's for Him anyways. This is very encouraging to see that you're somebody who takes notes. I'm the same way. And so I'm encouraged by that. And I just want to be an encouragement to you all to be salt and light. Remember that salt and light, neither one of them exists for their own selves, but they exist for other things. And so God has called us to be people who don't just exist for ourselves, but exist for others, to be a blessing, to be grace, to be love to other people. And so until next week, we will see you soon. Tuesday Takeaway is now over. God bless you. Have a good day.